Malaysian 370, contact Ho Chi Minh 120.9. Good night.
Good night, Malaysian 370.
Breaking news tonight, a Malaysia Airlines flight with 239 people on board, including 4 Americans, has gone missing.
From the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds."
Hello, chat. Thank you very much for being here, guys, on this Wednesday. Hope you guys are doing well. Okay, guys. If I were to tell you that I drafted 6, what do they call them? Shit, I already forgot the name. Damn it, this was going to work so well. 6 night luminaries, you would say, what the hell are you talking about, Ashton? Exactly. I'm talking about magic cards, but you don't understand what that means if you don't have any context for it. Well, that is also true of science. If you don't understand any context around science, you can't understand how it works at all. So in the news in the last few days, last week or so, warp drives have been making the headlines again. And actually at the same time, I was reviewing a video about warp drives. So tonight we're going to look into that. We're going to dig into it a little bit, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the science around how a warp drive is possible. And then actually we're going to jump in and look at some Helion Fusion CEOs. So thank you guys for being here. Let's get going. Okay, right off the bat, guys, warp drive. How is it possible? Well, warp drive is possible. Why? Because space is not empty. Whoa. Wow, space isn't empty? Whoa, mind-blowing. Yeah, space isn't empty. It's a medium. It's an energetic medium that's basically mostly neutral. So, how then do we create a warp drive? The same way we create a wave. The same way we create a wave. You're like, oh, what do you mean, Ashton? Well, the water is normally like this, right? But when we make the water go like this, it goes in one direction or the other. So if we bend space-time, we can think of it as bending space-time, then we can create a wave. Okay, that's simple enough, right? And how do we manipulate space-time? We add energy to it. We add mass energy because E equals mc squared. Mass is energy, as I posted on Twitter earlier today. Mass is energy, and energy is frequency or related to frequency. So, if we want, so this means if space is not empty, this means 3 types of propulsion now become immediately possible. Number 1, EM drive. Yes, the impossible drive, everybody. The impossible drive now becomes real, now becomes possible. Why? Because now we have something to push against. We have something to push off of, the medium, all around us all the time. Even if those forces are small, that's fine. It's outer space, maybe. Even if we have a very small amount of acceleration that adds up over time. So EM drive becomes possible and actually very feasible for things like maneuvering satellites is the one that everybody uses. Maneuver the satellites. You can use EM drive for that. Unlimited propulsion. Don't have to have anything on board. Pretty sweet. Next thing that becomes possible is warp drive. Warp drive. So EM drive is like Star Trek impulse drive. Where are my figures, chat? Here we go. My props. So we got our plane, right? This is Star Trek impulse drive. Whee! Warp drive, we're just surfing the wave. Woo! We're surfing the wave and we're not moving at all. It's the wave that's moving. Okay? So in one, we're pushing off of the fabric, the medium. And you say, oh, these things are similar. And I say, yes, of course they are. They're all based on the same concept. So the next concept is we're going to make an asymmetrical wave, and we're going to ride that wave. That's called Miguel Alcubierre's warp drive metric. Okay? So we just take our space-time and we just bend it a little bit. And what's going to happen? You're going to fall. You're going to fall into the pit that you create. Or vice versa. Be repelled by it. Now, what's the third thing that you can create? And now when you create a warp drive, guys, when you're making the warp drive, it's not you moving at all. This is the thing where it's like everyone goes, well, how does this work in the law of physics? It's actually really simple. We're not accelerating you at all. You aren't being accelerated. The space you're in is being accelerated. The whole region is getting picked up and moved somewhere else. So then the third thing is if you turn that nozzle up all the way, if you turn that up all the way, bloop, you get an actual wormhole. You create an actual geometry that wasn't there before. A new geometry where now things just fall into the oblivion. And where does the oblivion go? Well, that's the big question. Where does the oblivion go? Does it go to another dimension? According to the evidence we have related to MH370, it didn't go to another dimension. Although maybe the bulk of it did. Maybe that's why we didn't find the bulk of it. But some of it didn't go to another dimension. Some of it didn't go to another dimension. So let's visualize. Chat, I'm just a normal healthcare IT consultant. I need videos and images to make things make sense for me here. So shout out to my boy. I don't know how to say his name here. Ava Lab. Ava Lab here. The world's first. Oh, wait, is this not even the right one? This is not even the right one. Chat. We're going to come back to that. You didn't see that. You didn't see that. That was too soon. What? Wait, where is it? Okay. There we go. Tricky. There we go. Okay. Shout out to my boy, Socratic Scribe. Great follow, guys. Check out Socratic Scribe. His stuff's awesome. We are going to watch. Now, back in the day, back when I was a casual, chat, when I was a casual, I didn't understand why wave pools were so important. Why are wave pools so important? Well, now we know why. We're in a medium all the time. So if we want to understand how this ether is interacting with our observable reality, this is how. This right here is how. There are ripples in that medium. So if we want to understand, even if we can't visually see them, we can understand how they're going to work. So now, how are the orbs making a portal, wormhole, that MH370 is going through? Take a look at this. Don't worry, they got slow-mo for you. Sorry, we probably don't even need the sound, right? That's pretty cool with the sound. Okay. So, how does that work? Well, all the waves are set so that they will hit at the exact same point, right? The waves are in phase, and then they central down onto toroidal, donut-shaped geometry. And what happens at the center of the donut-shaped geometry? You see an implosion. You see this suction downward. Okay. Now check out this one. This one's really wild. Do I have it on slow-mo? No, it's on normal speed. Look at this. Hello, vortex. Look at the vortex. Look at the middle. There's a dead zone in the middle. Look at that. And then there's some kind of inversion happens there. Do you guys see that inversion here? Look at how cool this is. So they set this one up in a vortex motion. You can see the middle is perfectly still. The middle is perfectly still as if the vortex isn't even happening. And then some point here, there's some equilibrium that gets met. It almost looks like a hexagon to me. It looks hexagonal to me. And then right here, there's this inversion. So it's almost this bubbling up in the middle where there is like this calm. And then it just pushes back. Damn. Cymatics chat. Cymatics. Okay, so if you don't know what cymatics is, I mean, what is this? How are they doing this? It's just frequency. It's just frequency, just waves. That's it. Probably sound waves, I think, in water, right? Here's another vortex motion you can see there. So you can really see and you could imagine, like, how would magnetic field lines interact with the ether? How would you churn up the ether? Well, you're going to see patterns like this because it's just waves. Except for we just can't see those patterns. Look at this cymatics plane right there. Look at that. Holy crap. There's standing waves right there, guys. Standing waves. That's a standing wave. Oh, that's a beautiful representation of a standing wave. See how it doesn't even look like it's moving? It doesn't even look like it's moving. It looks like it's just going back and forth. I mean, here you go. This is the best representation of standing wave I've ever seen right here. Right there. That's standing waves. Look at that. Yeah, what sound do you need? It's waves. What do you mean sound? What do you think? What sound are you expecting, bro? It's some waves. Take a look at that. Look at that. Guys, what? The only thing you need for this is eyes. You don't need sound. Look, standing waves. That's what standing waves look like. So you can imagine those are waves that are moving. They're oscillating. But it doesn't look like they're moving. It doesn't look like they're moving. So, why do I bring that up? Well, if we need to make a warp drive, if we want to make a wormhole, we need to understand how plasma and waves move. In fact, magnetohydrodynamics is actually the study of plasma movement, waves of plasma moving around. And so if we want to make a warp drive, you can imagine the ripples, right? You can imagine using that ripple pattern to make movement, thrust in a single direction. Or in the case of the enclosing spiral or the enclosing sphere, you can see that it creates a singularity at the center point, which first goes down and then ricochets back up. So if you were to imagine, what if we were to do that with energy? What if we add some huge amount of energy to a region of space-time, like this region right here? And then what if it plops down and then shoots back up like that again? What if that's negative energy? What if negative energy is just some kind of like plucking on the string of the ether? Pull on the string of the ether and you get a reaction. To me, that's how I view the idea of negative energy. I just look at the amplitudes of those waves and where they come in the middle and where you see it go down and we see it shoot back up. And in fact, you can see total internal reflection in, I think it was like is it the Navy's? They have a pool like that. The Navy has a pool just like that. Does basically the same thing. And you can see total internal reflection just like with the plane. Just like with the plane where you see the tail of the plane sticking out of it. Okay. Next thing, guys. Oh, I didn't want to close that. Okay, well, whatever. Side pit stop. Helion Fusion, guys. Helion Fusion. I got to point something out that I just saw here. So yesterday, I was kind of having an epiphany. Helion Fusion, definitely, somebody's told these guys something, right? Somebody's told these guys something. Dr. John Slow, co-founder of Helion Fusion, he's been a busy boy, chat. He's been a busy boy. He's not just some science fusion guy. He literally has been working on plasma propulsion since the 90s, maybe even earlier than that. In fact, in his paper, one of his papers, as you can see just right here on the screen, I actually have it up in the background. Rapid manned missions with propagating magnetic wave plasma accelerator. Magnetic wave plasma accelerator. Huh. Well, look at what it says here. This is accomplished by employing a traveling magnetic wave accelerator to accelerate a magnetically self-confined plasmoid, commonly referred to as a field reverse configuration, FRC. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me right now? Guys, the videos are real. Obviously, it's all real. Do you really think that we would just randomly be coming across the co-founder of Helion Fusion, who I have been saying that they must have some inside information. The term FRC, field reverse configuration, comes from plasmoids. It's literally to define a plasmoid so that people don't have to say the word plasmoids. Wow. Okay. Okay. Look at this image of it as well. This isn't really the best one, but just to show you, like, magnetized plasma toroid. That's what a plasma is. A plasmoid is a plasma toroid. This guy, like, might as well be like Bob Grenier. Like, he's talking about the exact same stuff in his scientific papers. And then what was the other one I want to show? Yeah, this one here. So, not just that. Take a look at this. This was from another one of the papers that I was reading through. Take a look at this. The field reverse configuration is a magnetized plasmoid that has been developed for use in magnetic confinement fusion. Several of its properties suggest that it may also be useful as a thruster for in-space propulsion. I mean, jackpot. I just, how do I have to work so hard to convince people that MH370 videos are real? Guys, did I go and people think that I made the videos or something because their minds can't comprehend how all these pieces are coming together? Did I go back and make people say that FRCs are literally plasmoids? I didn't know this just a few days ago. I've been out here saying that FRCs are the secret just because they produce a spherical shaped plasma. I didn't know that was a unique thing. And it was like, has to be that. And I didn't know that FRC literally meant plasmoid. Yeah, we're like, they powered space juice up already, chat. See, they're way ahead of us. They're way ahead of us. They've been doing the same psychological games. We come out with space juice and they laugh at us and they go, that's what we were calling it 20 years ago. Now we call it FRCs. It's called FRCs. It's called the quantum, what is it? The extraction of the quantum energy from the space-time continuum. We have to call it the right thing. Otherwise, it doesn't count everybody. Okay. No, but right here, in the highlighted part here, it says, the FRC is a compact toroid that only has a colloidal field and is characterized by a high plasma beta. So they were already talking about this, like, high beta concept. People have already dug into it. This high beta concept has gone back to the 80s. To the 80s. How has nobody figured it out? I don't know. Humans are stupid. The military's not stupid. Lockheed Martin's not stupid. Lockheed Martin literally built their compact fusion reactor based on this. Take it for what you will. They even bragged about using it for propulsion too. Again, I don't control Lockheed Martin. I didn't make all this stuff. I didn't plant all this on the internet years and years and years ago. It's out there because the United States government has some plasma orbs flying around. And they're basically compact fusion reactors. Here you go. Literally the CEO. No, he's not the CEO. This one's not the CEO. We're going to talk about the CEO in a minute. Literally the co-founder of Helion Fusion. And he comes from a different fusion company, and he's all connected to national security and DOE. All these guys are. So when you want to know, is the world a scam? Not only is the whole world a scam, Yes, it is. We also found how they're planning on scamming us for the next 25 years. Just from those videos, just from this investigation, we've already caught onto the next scam before they've even been able to roll it out yet. They're planning on rolling out the next scam, and we already nailed who's going to win fusion. It's going to be the aneutronic fusion people like Helion Fusion and TAE, Tri-Alpha Energy. They're the ones who are going to solve it. And we literally found like the CEO's just been writing papers about spherical plasmoids. So if you don't know what poloidal field means, when we talk about a toroidal field, we're talking about a donut, right? A donut. When we talk about a poloidal field, we're talking about the Earth. We're talking about a sphere that has two axial jets on either side, a North Pole and a South Pole. And the magnetic field lines flow around like an orb. And so what does this also mean? This means the orbs in the MH370 video are almost certainly a tube. A tube. And the plasma is being enveloped around either side of the tube. And it looks spherical, mostly spherical. And therefore creates a spheromac. It could also just be, as other people have pointed out, completely plasma that is just like a smoke ring. But then the question is, how are you moving it around? How are you controlling it? Ultimately, end of the day, I don't really give a shit. Just give me the goddamn plasma orbs. Give us the free energy. Give us the teleportation. Stop lying to us. Stop slow dripping us this weird alien crap and just give us the orbs and give us the tech. Okay. Next thing. So, I realized that the CEO, the other co-founder, Dr. David Kirtley, he's on Twitter. He's on Twitter. Okay. Boy, I don't think he's going to be too happy about me finding him on Twitter. So I saw him on Twitter. So this was yesterday. What time exactly was this yesterday? Yesterday morning. Okay. Yesterday morning on one of my breaks, I made this post because I'm like, what the hell? And then I find him. So I follow him on Twitter. There he is. Level 12 Atomancer. Sure, bro. Sure. Whatever you say. He made a weird post yesterday. So yesterday afternoon, he just posts and says number 6. I actually retweeted one of his posts. Which one did I retweet? I think I retweeted one of his posts yesterday. Number 6. Now, see, if I went full schizo right here, if I was going full schizo, I'd say number 6, that's interesting, like 6 orbs. But you know what? We're not going to go full schizo. But I do want to have him on the podcast because I was digging through this and I found something interesting. What did I find? Well, he's written an article recently. He's written an article recently. He was promoting this like a few days ago. Here you go. How to make fusion electricity without ignition. Have a sip, chat. And if you're listening on audio, how to make fusion without ignition. So, if you listen to YouTubers who say that they're experts on nuclear physics and what have you, they'll say the goal of fusion is to get ignition. We're going to get ignition because once we get ignition, now our sun has got so much heat that it's just self-perpetuating. Ignition would mean that it's working on its own. We don't have to do anything. Right? Ignition. What if we don't need ignition at all? What if we don't need ignition at all, chat? Here's a big idea for you. What if the problem with fusion is that our whole objective is wrong? Our whole objective is wrong. We don't need ignition. We don't even need to be trying for ignition. In fact, ignition is actually stupid because we don't want the energy in a form of heat anyway. That's not the form of energy we want anyway. The form of energy we want is electricity. So why the hell are we trying to make a giant fireball in the sky? Now, if that thought has you wondering, you're going to love tonight's stream. Because here's the next thing. Why do we think that we have to... Why do we think that we need that? Why do we think we need ignition? I guess because we think that, okay, well, then we've hit infinity. Once we hit ignition, we've hit infinity. Now we have infinity energy, right? Just like the sun. But what if we can just make a circuit? What if we can make an electrical circuit that's like 99% efficient? If we can make a circuit that's super efficient, if we can make a design and engineering apparatus that's omega efficient, then we actually don't need something to be self-perpetuating. It's not a requirement anymore. We can actually produce over unity systems without ignition. Fusion has been a scam the whole time. The whole time. And if you understand Tesla and electrical engineering, then you understand the circuit matters almost as much, if not as much as the source matters. How you design your circuit. So why is this article so mind-blowing? Because this is the CEO of Helion Fusion, and I'm basically just reiterating what this article taught me. This is basically what this article taught me. This article says we don't need ignition at all. So look at it from this perspective. I'm just going to give you a crude example. Okay. I had a good example ready to go. So we might say, okay, in order to get to a power output of 100 with crude fusion techniques, we need an equivalent power input of 10. Okay, great. So we do that, or let's simplify it. Let's say we need to get to a power output of 10, and we're going to get a power output of 10. We're going to put in an equivalent of 5. Okay, great. So we're going to get 5 extra units of energy out. That's awesome. That's awesome. 5 extra units of energy. But what if we don't try to get the power output of 10? What if we only try to get the power output of 5, and we can do that using the power output of 1? Think about that. That would mean, yes, technically, I'm not getting as much back. I'm not getting the 10 output back. But you need 5 units of input to get that, meaning your output is just over unity of 2. The output divided by the input, 2. But if I'm only trying to get 5 units of output out and I only need 1 unit of input in to do that, now I've gotten 5 times over unity. You're right. Technically, I didn't actually get as much power output. But what the point being is, if you can either recycle the power you're using or minimize the input energy, you can create efficiency gains that begin to eclipse basically like a hammer approach to the problem. Simplicity. Exactly. And how do we do that? As somebody just mentioned in the chat, pulsed plasma. If you actually just read any of the science by Kirtley or Slow, pulsed plasma physics, waves. Again, this is all in their literature, everything they've been researching. It's all what it's connected to. That's what they've been researching. I mean, and there's a lot of analogies to Ken's shoulders and exotic vacuum objects as well. So in this article, I mean, right off the bat, he's talking about, you probably heard of the National Ignition Facility. But we don't actually need ignition. So I've already explained what ignition is here. Where's the part that I want? I didn't really understand his graph here, but here's where he explains. He says, if 95% of the input energy after the pulse is recovered and the electricity to heating is high, then net electricity production is possible even when the scientific gain is below 1. So what he's saying is, even if you haven't technically hit your scientific over unity, you can still achieve over unity through engineering. And you want to know something that's wild about this? I was watching, let me pull this up, this reaction video. Nuclear engineer, real engineering, chat. Nuclear engineer reacts to the problem with fusion. Wait, is this the one?
Generating electricity.
Here he is. Will the Helion fusion reactor actually work? Nuclear engineer reacts to real engineering, chat. So when I watched through this guy is 100% completely incapable of understanding the concept that I just explained to you. So if you are out there, you're going, I'm too dumb to understand all this stuff. I can't understand this. If you understood anything that I explained just there about efficiency, then you're already smarter than YouTuber nuclear physicists who do react videos to other nuclear fusion attempts. This guy quite literally cannot get his mind around the concept that he's probably working on a whatchamacallit, a toroidal tokamak or whatever. And in his mind, he can't understand, how can you produce energy? How can you produce more energy than us when you are achieving lower temperatures? That's not a thing that he can get his brain around. And he says it like multiple times in that video. It's mostly just him listening to the fusion guy going, I don't understand this. I don't understand this. And then you have a bunch of idiots in the comments all going, my YouTuber is so smart. He debunked these people. They're just making up this process. None of this stuff works. My guy's the real smart guy. Which is totally mind-blowing to me. Because the tokamak hot fusion people have never produced anything in 70 years. You have absolutely no high horse to stand on talking about other people's ideas don't work. Tokamaks literally don't work. Hot fusion literally has never worked, ever. And it's probably never going to work. You know why? Because you don't understand basic physics. I hate to be rude, but you literally don't understand basic physics. If you can't understand that space is not empty, then you've misunderstood the most basic aspect of the universe, and you are never going to build a fusion reactor in a million years. Not in a million years. So that's my reaction to the reaction. Now, I want to take a quick look at this. Because now we know for sure. Oh, wait, let's go back to this. I want to take one more quick look at this this article. Because when I read this, I'm like, okay, I need to talk to the Helion Fusion CEO. Because this guy knows, man. This guy knows. The question is, how much does he know about the origins of this company? Because this company has CIA, DOE written all over it. Helion does. Has it written all over. In fact, I've already confirmed it. Their first funding was from the DOE. I think it was $5 million and then $7 million, like a decade ago, a little over a decade ago. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, Sam Altman and Peter Thiel. Oh, yeah. Their second funding was actually with Mithril Capital, which is Peter Thiel, which is CIA. So yes, 100% for the people who want to know, is there CIA connections to this company? I don't know. Is Peter Thiel connected to the CIA? You tell me. So here we go. 3 factors that eliminate the need for ignition. And if the person that had done the reaction video just read the literal CEO's blog, he would know the answer to all the questions he didn't understand. So really right in here. Helion recovers fusion energy magnetically, not thermally. Instead of turning fusion into steam, then turning into mechanical motion, and finally into electricity, our system skips all these steps. When fusion occurs in our field reverse configuration plasmas, the hot plasmas expand and push back on the magnetic field around it. That push induces a current in the coils, like regenerative braking in an electric vehicle. and feeds the electricity directly back into the system. Even more than that, we recover as much of the input electricity as possible so that fusion only has to make the little amount we cannot recover. Wow. Chat. Put all your money in Helion Fusion, chat. That's all the words I needed to hear. This is a man who knows Tesla is legit. I can just tell immediately right there. And he's saying, we can actually, why make a turbine? We can actually have the electrons spinning. Just have the electrons spinning, and the pushback of the electrons trying to expand the magnetic confinement will turn that kinetic energy into electricity. So we are actually figuring out how to make a turbine out of plasma. Like a plasma turbine, I guess. I don't know. Is there other names for it? They probably have a million names for it. I just haven't even looked. So this is why they're getting rid. Why is there no actual turbine in these plasma orb drones? Because they're just using a process like this. They're just using a process like this. They're using a regenerative process like this, that the plasma itself becomes an engine. And that's why the plasma is also spinning. So in one of the other papers that I read, I think it was by Dr. Slow as well, it talks about if you get the plasma spinning, like all the electrons start to sync up. Remember the synchronization? Just like the synchronization. It's actually wild. It made me think of that. That what the actual... Here it is.
This
like
is an
this.
audience in Budapest applauding after a performance. But what happens next is completely spontaneous. They're not being instructed by anyone. See if you can spot the phase transition.
So that's what they're doing in the orbs. So what do you do in the orbs? You pulse your frequency, electromagnetic frequency, into the orbs. You create that standing wave. And then what happens? Every atom, every electron that comes into the orb locks in, gets locked into phase with the rest of it. What does this do? Creates stability, stabilizes the plasma, reduces instabilities, probably just solves fusion entirely for all I know. How cool is that, though? That's actually why the orbs are spinning. At least my opinion is that the orbs actually spinning allow for stabilization through this synchronization. Yeah, nature is sweet, chat. Okay. So directed energy conversion. So they're getting back as much as they can get. And it says we don't need turbines or cooling towers. Reduces the size and complexity. High beta. There it is. High beta. Beta is the ratio of plasma pressure to magnetic pressure. So the plasma is trying to push out, right? Plasma is trying to push out, and the magnetic pressure is pushing it back in. And they're pulling electricity out of this. Why? Because what is electricity? Just spin a magnetic field through a copper coil, and you get electricity. It's magic. Well, do it with plasma. And they say right here, the FRCs operate high beta approaching 1 or 100%. That means we can confine high pressure plasma using relatively modest magnetic fields. So they don't even need that powerful magnetic fields because their beta value of the configuration is so high. How crazy is that? So we actually don't even need super powerful magnetic fields, or, I mean, you can look at it from another perspective. The higher the magnetic field, the more power you're getting. But to get it to work, you don't even need that much. For every unit of energy applied by the magnetic field, we get nearly 1 unit of energy in the plasma itself. So this means you're getting almost perfect efficiency from the plasma too. So what's happening here is all these efficiencies, they're stacking up on top of each other. Just like in magic cards, chat. What do I always say about magic cards? No one remembers. You're not trying to just make a good deck. You're trying to make a deck that's just broken. That the combos just make the next card even better and the next one even more powerful. Well, that's what's happening here. directed energy conversion, high beta concept, each of these, and then pulsing it as well. Each of these adds another layer of efficiency. So they just found a better, smarter way to do fusion, and now it makes sense. How did Lockheed Martin leapfrog everybody else? Well, because they're not stupid as hell. Because Charles Chase is a smart guy. And Charles Chase realized, oh, these people figured out fusion that's non-ignition based on the idea of zero-point energy, based on the idea of the ether. And then here we go. This is crazy. Like, this is where I was just, I'm reading this and I'm just going, what? So we talked about the self pulse. Because each pulse is quick and self-contained, we do not need the plasma to self-sustain through ignition. We just need the fusion energy in each pulse to exceed the system's internal losses. That is much more achievable and controllable target. Wow. What's wild? What's wild is this hasn't got more attention. They actually have gotten a lot of attention. They've actually gotten quite a bit of attention, but people have not quite realized the significance of helium fusion. But they're going to, especially when we impact the stock market, which is what we're going to do. When this company goes IPO, that IPO is going to go through the roof. Or it might crash because maybe they're connected to these crimes and then they're screwed. I don't know. I don't care. That's for somebody else to figure out. Okay, and then it says, at Helion, we are not building a machine to do the most fusion. We are building a machine to generate the most electricity. When that sentence right there, I can't not think about the orbs, because the orbs were not built to do fusion. The orbs are using fusion as a propulsion mechanism. They're using it as an energy generation mechanism to teleport an airplane. But they are super efficient and they're able to produce over unity. We know that. So what we're saying here, though, is that if you were going to make something that's going to do, if you want transmutation, you build a different device. If you want the most transmutation, the most alchemy, then you do something else. If you want the most electricity, then you do this. And it turns out if you want enough electricity to teleport a Boeing 777, you also need something like this. Okay. Now, I promised smart sciencey videos. And I always deliver on my promises. So, now to the one, and this is the link to that if you guys are interested, how to make fusion electricity without ignition. Another Yahtzee chat. I've grown so disillusioned that I don't even Yahtzee anymore. We now find out that like the CEOs of one of the biggest fusion companies is secretly doing like this cool fusion that's not even trying to do ignition, that's backed by the CIA. And oh, by the way, they definitely know what's going on in the orbs because the orbs are literally field reverse configuration, just like their mechanism. Their background is literally in using plasma fusion for propulsion. Like literally that's their background. Did you guys know Helion Fusion started because they were going to do propulsion? What the hell, man? What the hell? Jesus. I got to come up with some new words that are like, I don't know. Maybe I'll just become totally disaffected Ashton from this point forward. Okay. This time now, shout out to Evolab. The world's first direct measurements of boron fusion in a magnetically confined plasma were published in Nature February 2023. This is 6 months before the MH370 videos got popular. Authored by the senior director at TAE Fusion, Tri-Alpha Energy. Okay, chat, catch back up. There are only 2 companies that are doing field reverse configuration. 1, Helion Fusion. 2, Tri-Alpha Energy TAE. Before you ask, both of them are connected to the DOE. Both of them are connected to the DOE. Both have been getting funding from them. Okay, so here we go. What did I want to say here? Oh, yeah. Because of the strength of today's laser and directed energy beams, like the 2023 Nobel Prize winning attosecond laser, the team in Japan at the Large Helical device inadvertently created the conditions for the first resonance phase of a boron plasma. Okay. So, one more bit of background. Helion Fusion is talking about using helium-3 for their aneutronic reactions. There's another option, boron-11. Boron-11 is the other option. Actually, there's a third option called lithium-6 and lithium-7, but we're not going to talk about that for the moment. We're starting with these. So TAE has been working on perfecting magnetic confinement in plasmas using, ding, 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 field reverse configuration. There we go. So, by using the recently updated values of the boron, proton fusion, it can be shown that thermal boron-11 plasma can produce a high Q value. Remember, and even reach ignition. So once again, Q value, we want to be able to produce over unity. We don't even need ignition is what we just realized. So now we don't even care about ignition. We can produce efficiencies that exceed ignition rates. Right here it says, by maintaining a non-equilibrium of energetic reacting ions, the fusion power is further increased. So what are they doing? They are getting themselves into non-equilibrium. So you say, you've got your plasma, I'm going to strip my electrons from my ions, and then I need it to stay separated. Well, how are we going to get them to stay separated? We get them to stay separated by having them spin around. Let's have them spin around, then they'll stay separated, right? Why are the orbs spinning? There you go. Okay, I'm just going to let him speak to the rest of it. There's a video right here. Now, I do want to point out resonance. Resonance. Why is resonance important? Resonance is important just like standing waves, the video of the pool. Keep thinking of the video of the pool. The standing waves in the video of the pool, resonance. So if we can create a resonance plasma, perhaps we can keep it in non-equilibrium, keep it stuck like building an ice sculpture. We want to keep that thing frozen, keep it stuck there. It wants to melt. We got to keep it cold. In this case, we're not going to keep it cold. We're just going to keep it moving. Keep it moving. So here we go. TAE. We're like literally going to increase the value of these companies like several $1 billion by just talking about them. So TAE, whatever, just give me some legal kickbacks, bro. Just put me on the payroll, whatever you got to do, right? I know you guys are about to rig the world. I know you're about to make billions of dollars off this, maybe trillions. Just let me get a small piece, chat. Please. TAE, this is the CEO of TAE. Let me have a little bit. I'm just a poor regular guy.
Device that they have, it's called a boronization system, and this is just a kind of an ancillary system that's not integral to making the plasma. But they found that if they sprinkle in a little bit of boron powder, the plasma subsumes that boron and distributes it over the surface of the vacuum vessel. And that boron sticks to the walls and actually acts as what we call a getter, which means that impurities from the plasma stick to it. So if you have a thin layer of boron on the walls of your fusion device, your plasma becomes much more high purity. There's not as many impurities in the plasma radiate.
Okay. Pause, chat. Pause. How many deep state motherfuckers am I going to have to expose, chat? I don't care. I have to take down every defense contractor, every surveillance company, Lockheed Martin, Sierra Nevada Corporation, Helion Fusion, fucking TAE. I don't care how many I got to take out. What did my ears just hear? If we put some boron 11 in the plasma, it fixes the instabilities, it starts doing weird stuff. Wait. But wasn't I just talking about Joseph P. Farrell like not that long ago? Oh yeah, I was. Where is that? JPF. JP. Here it is. This one.
But the other interesting he mentions as a component, a chemical component of his plasma compound, which, by the way, he's saying it's being done with lithium-7. And this was one of the things I think that got him into trouble with the experts at the time, was he was saying he's getting fusion results from lithium-7, which, of course, we thought would not fuse, particularly at the temperatures he was claiming to be doing it.
Wait for it. Chat, wait for it.
So what do? We let off Castle Bravo, our first hydrogen bomb, and it runs away to 15 megatons when we were only expecting 7. And then our experts tell us, oh, well, we made a boo-boo, a tiny little boo-boo. The lithium-7 entered the fusion reaction, and we didn't think it would. Whoops, sorry about that. Which I just... that alone boggles the mind, especially when you have a guy who unfortunately used to be a Nazi working for Juan Perón that says, yeah, lithium-7 works just fine. And by the way, he even told the Air Force this. This is why the Air Force went down to interview him.
Wow.
Anyway, so Richter's down there, but the other element that he says, I'm adding a little bit of boron to my lithium plasma mix. So in other words, what Ashton is telling me, yeah, I'm listening to Ronald Richter talking in 1952 to the press conference that Juan Perón has called everybody together to, hey, we've got the secret to the hydrogen bomb down here in Buenos Aires.
Chat, is it just a coincidence that the secret to the hydrogen bomb is to add some boron to your lithium thermonuclear detonation? And now TAE, backed by the Department of Energy, has figured out a magical A-neutronic fusion fuel using boron 11? Is that just a coincidence, chat? How many elements are on the periodic table? What are my odds, chat? 1 out of 151? Maybe 3 out of 150 or something like that. I don't think it's a coincidence. I have a feeling that the reason why we're seeing these A-neutronic direct energy conversion fusion companies is because they are using information that comes from nukes, that comes from nuclear technology, nuclear secrets. In fact, some of these scientists might have been on black projects related to nuclear weapons. Might have been on. Okay, let's do a couple donos before we finish that video. Okay, Timothy Foster, thank you very much. Thanks for your teaching on plasma orbs. Helped me and my female boat crew better to understand up-close orb when fishing. That's awesome. Oh, you're near China Lake. Yeah, if you're near China Lake, that's Big Safari, baby. It's where they test the stuff out. It's where they test out. You go say hi to the cameras when you're out there boating. Thank you very much, Timothy. Broly GTA 4. Good evening. Is lightning bolts a form of plasma? Yes. In fact, the plasma balls that we're talking about would resemble a ball of lightning. And that's why they were literally called ball lightning. So when you hear this term ball lightning, that's the same as an exotic vacuum object. Ball lightning is actually the same as a field reverse configuration. Now, if you say that, they'll go, no, it's not. It's technically very different, actually. But no, technically ball lightning, FRCs, plasmoids, all this, all explaining, describing the same things, yes. WT Halliburton. Yeah, where you at, Halliburton? And then Woke Not Walked. Thank you for the cookies. Appreciate it. He put a link in there. Electromagnetic fusion turbine engines. I'll throw that in the chat. Take a look at that. So if you're interested in that, take a look at this. Thank you, Woke Not Walk. And then he also says American Fusion Company located in Everett. Yeah, so that is Magneto-inertial confinement fusion. I also want to point out that the magneto-inertial confinement fusion that TAE and Helion are working on is very similar to Salvatore Pais's patent. Salvatore Pais, U.S. Navy engineer, has a magneto-inertial confinement fusion device, and it almost is indistinguishable from what these guys are explaining in their FRCs, what have you. I mean, it's not as detailed as their stuff is because they're like huge fusion companies with billions of dollars, but it is different. Okay. There we go. And then the last thing, Castle Bravo. The scientists behind the test had anticipated a 6 megaton blast, but the actual yield was more than double that. This is huge. Castle Bravo, that same thing that Joseph P. Farrell was talking about, where they added the boron, sprinkle a little boron, sprinkle a little crack on them. The actual test anticipated 6 megatons. Instead, I think it was like 15 megaton detonation. This massive miscalculation was due to a new, more efficient fusion fuel, which ended up releasing 2.5 times more energy than expected. What was the magic fusion fuel, chat? Sprinkled a little boron in there, chat. Sprinkled a little boron. There you go. Thank you very much, Woke and Walk. That's awesome. Let's go back to this video.
Away valuable energy. So they developed this boronization system just as a way to keep the machine clean. But what we realized with our discussions here and with the NIFS team was that during this boronization process, they were actually creating a boron plasma inside the machine. And
bro, okay. Sorry, I'm just gonna call bullshit. I'm just calling bullshit. I can't listen when I feel like somebody's lying to me. He's like, we discovered this boronization because it was like we were just doing it to clean the machine, and then we just figured out that it's magical pixie dust that makes infinite energy. No. F that, dude. F that. Don't bullshit a bullshitter. Just tell me the truth. You clearly knew that this boronization plasma was going to work. Somebody connected to you either works in nukes or they got they heard through the grapevine. Somebody told them. This is what I hate. Like, I can just tell, no question, these companies didn't randomly happen upon this. They have connections. They are either people in black projects or they know people in black projects. And they, this is how it leaks out. People are like, how does the information not leak out? How does disclosure not leak out? It does. It is. This is what it looks like. This is literally what it looks like when it leaks out, is these scientists making billion-dollar fusion companies because they know how it works, and they're being backed by the other people that know how it works. And then they all get really rich. They don't need more than a few million or $1 billion. They don't need to be Elon Musk. In fact, they don't want to be because they're running scams. I mean, I'm not saying this guy's necessarily a scammer, but generally the fusion situation is a scam. There you go.
We also realized that their beams that they had developed were of the right energy to access what's called the first resonance of the PB11 fusion reaction. So they didn't really intend to, but they had all of the ingredients required there for PB11 fusion.
He's talking about attosecond lasers right there. That's where he's talking about the attosecond lasers, which, by the way, guys, one of the only papers of the 38 DIRDs that Hal Puthoff commissioned through the DIA, only one of them is classified. Do you know which one is classified still? The one on lasers. The one on high energy lasers. Why? Because the military has had attosecond lasers for decades. Somebody won the Nobel Prize for attosecond lasers in 2023. Well, good job. You did something the military has had figured out probably since the 80s or 70s. For 40 years. Okay? So if they had these lasers, they were able to do this a long time ago. And when do you guys think they figured out the boronization of plasma and powerful lasers? What do you think they were researching when they figured those things out? Oh, we know it's nukes. All this comes from nukes. All this stems back to nukes, and this is the reason why it's all national security. Because nukes are literally the most secret thing in the arsenal, and this is it. The plasma orbs are the number one secret in the arsenal because it leads back to the fact that they've been hiding technology that's decades beyond the public. And if they have to tell the truth about that, that's something that they can't admit to. They can't admit that they've just been literally lying to us on the grandest possible scales to a degree where they're just giving fake Nobel Prizes to people. We're just giving fake Nobel Prizes to people that don't even deserve them, that not even the first people to develop the technology. That's the scammy world that we live in. Welcome to it.
And we at TAE have been, as you know, interested in PB11 fusion for 20 years, and we have been occupied to date.
They've been interested in it for 20 years. They're going to do a movie about this. Disney's going to do a movie about TAE fusion, and it's going to have some stupid plot line where some like migrant teenage girl finds out that, oh, I accidentally put some boron in my home microwave oven, and it turned out it did some magical thing to the bread. And now she's going to become a Stanford PhD fusion researcher, and then she's going to discover the secret to fusion from that. And it's going to have it's going to check every single box on the DEI checkbox, and everyone's going to clap, and they're going to go, she was the real hero of fusion the whole time. That was the real unspoken hero. And no one's going to ever question it. No one's going to ever question it. Everyone's going to go, yep, that was the person who figured out fusion. She was just messing around with her easy bake oven, accidentally solved fusion, put some boron in there. That's the world we live in, chat. It's just fake. Everything's fake. Oh, wow. Thank you very much, Renee. Huge donation. Renee S, 1973. I think I know when you were born. Thank you very much. Appreciate that donation. MH370 greatly appreciates it. Okay. Let's see if we can make it through this clip, guys. It enrages me just because of all the deception. And now I've gotten just really good at telling where it's not that people are lying in a traditional sense. It's like they're lying by omission. It's like I can tell when they're holding back.
With developing a magnetic confinement device that is capable of burning this fuel. But our focus has really been on the magnetic confinement side of things. That is developing the field reverse configuration, the FRC.
Look at that.
And we hadn't yet conducted experiments with PB11 fuel. So this collaboration gave us an opportunity to do experiments with the PB11 fuel on this other device while we
Look at that. Oh, you guys can hear it? Oh, okay.
contribution to this joint research project was to design and develop and build a detector that was capable of measuring PB11 fusion alphas in the LHD environment, which is actually no easy task because there is a huge fluence of X-rays coming from the LHD plasma, a huge fluence of heat. So the detector we like to put as close to the plasma as possible in order to detect these particles. But at the same time, we need to shield it from this massive flux of heat and other particles and photons. So simultaneously being sensitive enough to detect these particles, but not so sensitive that you get fried from being too close to the plasma. That was the big challenge. And that was what we were able to do.
That's what
and why we wrote the paper.
So part of it is about how do you protect the equipment, as he's saying right there at the end. And protecting the equipment is a matter of a combination of just not having the plasma interact with it. So if you have powerful magnetic fields, you can just have there be a separation. And that seems to be what they did. If there is something inside the orbs, then the plasma is not directly interacting with it. That's how they get around that problem. Yeah.
So the The amount of energy that was released in alpha particles in our experiment.
The other thing was X-rays. He says it's releasing X-rays. X-rays are being released. Well, we've been wondering, what are these dark lines coming out of these plasma orbs in the MH370 videos? Well, if they're X-rays, they're going to be black. X-rays don't show up in thermal. That means they're going to show up black in the thermal. So it's almost certainly X-rays that we're seeing coming out of those orbs, which once again connects it back to field reverse configuration.
On the LHD was about 14 watts. So that's enough to power an LED. Many tens of megawatts went in to the beams and the superconducting magnets and the plasma. So to your earlier point, this was not a net energy production demonstration. This was really just a first step, in my mind, an important first step, because this now gives us an experimental platform to do PB11 experiments in a thermonuclear plasma. Basically, what we did was we took...
Wait, what? Did he just say thermonuclear plasma? Yes, he did. Why would this not be connected to nukes? I mean, I've literally been reading papers about nukes, and it's all about plasma and resonance. Freiwart Winterberg's textbook even talks about using magnetized plasmas as a fission ignition device. So now we've got this guy right here. And doesn't this remind you? Does this not remind you guys of anything? Doesn't this look just like the pool? Didn't this look just like the pool looked with the spinning magnetic fields? This looks just like the pool.
Rutherford's experimental setup and stuck it inside of a superconducting thermonuclear plasma. So we're doing
superconducting thermonuclear plasma. It turns out, like, I started this and I'm going, these are superconducting plasma orbs spinning around the plane. And everyone's going, Ashton, how do you know that? I'm like, I don't know. It just looks like it, you know, whatever. Now we're finding out that all the fusion things use superconducting magnets. Thermonuclear weapons do. Thermonuclear weapons are using magnetized plasmas. We find out there's field reverse configuration, just a fancy word for ball lightning. Oh, and it's got axial jets of X-rays shooting out of it too. Axial jets of X-rays shooting out of the Spheromac field reverse configurations. We find all of this. It's literally what the orbs are. Everybody's terrified to talk to me. Literally, CEO of Helion Fusion is terrified to talk to me. Come on, bro. Let's just be friends. Let's be friends. I'll be nice. I just want to know about some magic plasma orbs. We can be friends.
Rutherford's early experiments inside of the LHD. So another key similarity between what we're doing here at TAE and what's happening at LHD is the beams. So the concept that we're pursuing here at TAE is called a beam-driven FRC. So you have the magnetic confinement device that we call the FRC, but there are also these high-power neutral beams. So the reactor that we envision is actually driven by beams, and this is what's happening in the LHD now. So we can study how the beam interacts with the plasma and how that beam actually reacts the yield curve of the PB11 fusion reaction and how you might tune things to optimize.
Okay, so what year was this? This was, it can't be that old. This paper only came out 2023 or something. So, I mean, how much further ahead than that are they? Like, that's what they're telling the public, but we're watching plasma orbs teleport a plane in 2014. Something, the math ain't math in here. Something, either they're not telling us something from the public standpoint, or, you know, these guys are somehow in the dark and the Air Force is just super far ahead of them somehow, right? Either, I guess, are possible. So now that we've looked at plasma and fusion and FRCs, let's take a look at this video here that's by Michael Anderson. This was from, I think this is Tim Ventura's website, Alternate Propulsion. Warp reactor concept. So everybody's been asking about the warp drive that's in the news recently. The warp drive in the news, I believe, is the old positive mass warp drive paper from 2021 that everybody's been talking about. I mean, it's exciting. It's old, but you know what? All science, by definition, is old. Doesn't make it any less exciting. People didn't pay enough attention to it in 2021. They should pay more attention to it now. What's important is that we don't need magical new physics to make a warp drive. This reality that we're in right now will allow for a warp drive to happen. Great. Okay. How do we make one? Well, here you go. Here you go, chat. Team Warp. The warp reactor concept. Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory. Is that what that says down in the bottom right? I think it does. Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory. 2023, chat. Where have they been hiding this for the last 2 years? Where have they been hiding this bad boy? Let's take a look. Do we recognize anybody's names on here? Directed Energy Weapons and Systems, Solid State Pulsed Power, Mulhinyer, FRCs, Plasma Thrusters, Ion and Plasma Beam Generation and Transport. See what that says over there in the top right? Let me make it bigger for you, chat. Look at the top right. FRCs, Plasma Thrusters, Ion and Plasma Beam Generators and Transport. Okay.
Mr. James. So the warp reactor pulse power assembly and operations technician. So the warp reactor concept promises orders of magnitude increase of intense ion beam energies and respective radiation yields at a fraction of the size and cost over existing Z-pinch class accelerators, allowing the economically viable study of new relativistic high energy density, or RED, physics regimes for probing the intersection between general relativity and quantum field theory. For instance, warp, Unruh, and Casimir effects, along with game-changing direct applications from rep-rated magnetized linear inertial fusion, or MagLIF, devices for energy production and advanced
what did I miss?
Radiation yields at a fraction of the size and cost over existing Z-pinch class accelerators.
Whoa! Z-pinch classic accelerators? Wait a minute. So this is comparable to a Z-pinch accelerator? Oh, that wasn't even the moment I was waiting for. Hold on. There's something else coming. Okay, where is it? Next slide. Here it is.
To prevent plasma ring metamaterial rapid disassembly.
Wait for it.
Warp achieves this dramatic performance boost by using a novel warp core, which injects two tubular ion beams from opposite ends of a double-barreled dense plasma focus, or DPF, head through magnetic cusps to form co-rotating ion rings, which merge near the midplane of
dense plasma focus. Well, we're hitting every buzzword in the whole book, chat. We're hitting every buzzword in the whole book, chat. We're only a few minutes in. We're 5 minutes in. He's already talking about dense plasma focuses and Z pinches and FRCs. So, okay, people wonder, how does plasma and fusion connect to warp drives? Well, here you go. This is your connection right here. This guy
device and our subsequent.
So he's literally just reads off the slides, so you can pretty much just read them off yourself. 2 DPF, dense plasma focus, and ion ring Marx generators. So, magnetism, electromagnetism is how he does it. He shows the equations here as well for compression. Basically explains. He even has Jack Sarfati gets a mention here. But he basically says there's a modified Einstein field equation that includes these additional variables for metamaterial variable, which is just, I don't think we even need that because it's just the permeability and permittivity of free space. So he adds these modified values in here. And basically this is how this becomes possible. So that's how the math works is, okay, we're going to add some values in there and then we'll make the math work. And we're using pulsed power technology. Here you can see an example. Dense plasma ring focus particle ring generator. And again, these things are like a tube. They're just like a tube, basically. It's like a particle accelerator. Okay. Now let's just look at some more cool images of it. There's actually a video in here somewhere. Here's the warp core design. So he goes over the warp core design and like the 5 different phases of the warp core. It's going to go over most people's heads, so that's why I'm just going to skip it. But the phases here is that this is the important part. What you see happening in the middle over here, this is the plasma reaction. This plasma reaction is happening at the center of this device, and it's manipulating space-time. It's manipulating space. I'm creating a negative energy density. I mean, it can create any energy density to potentially manipulate space-time. But this is the idea, is that we're just manipulating electromagnetism. So here's the video. Look at that. Look, I'm going to slow it down. Go back to normal speed. Let's do this let's do this video justice, chat.
Let's see if I can pull the movie in. It won't let me, Tim.
See, I just need visual representations. Just show me. This is what it does, chat. There it is. Boom. Look at that. So it really is extremely similar to the Z-pinch, right? It is using a dense plasma focus. All right. So what are they doing? They're trying to make the plasma come together at the middle, right? They're trying to make the plasma come together at the middle, and then fusion reactions are occurring. They're not trying to make that. They're just trying to bend space-time. Wow. This actually looks like what, yeah, I was going to say, it looks like what Star Trek warp cell, right? It looks like a Star Trek thing. Okay, I liked it. Cool.
So next up, we have, to help benchmark our warp reactors, plasma liner implosion simulations, we compared them to the semi-analytical model for magnetized line with an analytic. And finally, in addition to the multi-physics models and simulations, we of course have 3D CAD engineering models with associated finite element analysis for electrical and mechanical stresses, along with circuit models and simulations for the Tempest system, the IRMGs, both the single pulse IMG and the reparated LTD varieties, and warp core dynamic loads.
Was there another video?
Due to resource and computational constraints, this simulation was performed for a mini interview of the dual DPF plasma generation, rundown, interaction, and a graph of the RB theta. Or
I see something about inertialist. Where was that? Where's that? I think it was right here, right? Yeah, here we go. Simulation was conducted in the particle in cell code Chicago in a hybrid kinetic mode where the electrons are treated as an inertialess fluid using magnetohydrodynamic equations for the electron response while the ions are treated as kinetic particles. I mean, you can just tell the connection here is so similar to the fusion reactors. There's almost no difference, really. So we're definitely using these plasmoids, right? DPF plasmoid magnetic reconnection. Okay, I want to listen to this. One of the things I still don't quite understand is the magnetic reconnection. Magnetic reconnection somehow ties into this. And I think it happens when the orbs come together in the MH370 video. I think we're seeing magnetic reconnection occur, where like the magnetic field lines for a second like reorient. But let's see what he says.
So this table is meant to capture the magnetic reconnection occurs on sub-microsecond timescales with respect to the dense plasma focus plasmoids characteristics as they propagate through their respective B-cusp field regions, and just over a microsecond timescale for the plasmoids to collide with one another at the midplane of the warp core. This slide shows the various DPF and ion beam propagation mechanisms. The top left figure is the propagation criteria for collective mode, while the bottom left figure captures the dense plasma focus diamagnetic drift mode for this particular parameter regime. The middle table shows the ion beam propagates in the collective mode unless the polarization electric field is shorted by background electrons. Finally, the right table displays the reflex triode and initial ion beam parameters along with final compression and accelerations.
Chat, let's be real. Let's be real, chat. The reason why no one's paying attention to this is because no one's reading all that. I ain't reading all that, but I'm happy for you or I'm sorry for your loss. I don't know what it is, but is that good? Is that bad? 99.99% of people are never reading all that, but that's sweet. And the reason why I love this is because everybody says, show me the math, show me the numbers. And then you show them the math and you show them the numbers like this. And then they immediately go, okay, but show me a working prototype then. And then you show them some videos and they go, no, but that's fake. And round we go, chat. Round and round we go. Okay. But I mean, how crazy it is that this is directly connecting fusion and plasmoids to warp drive, to manipulating space-time through energy density. Turns out warp drives are real. Turns out they're real and they're
and
connected to
DT
plasma.
fusion neutron yield,
Is there a
subsequently
conclusion?
multi-terapascal pressures, saturate. Particular interest of magnetoinertial
Here we
fusion
go.
16 or greater, and energy momentum of
Conclusion
greater
time,
than 10 to the
chat.
17.
Wrap it up for me, boss. Wrap it up. Here we go. You know
So in
what?
conclusion,
Okay.
we envision the warp reactor as a more compact, modular, and economically viable magnetoinertial fusion device for energy production, advanced propulsion, and or super radiant flash X-ray neutron source for dynamic radiographic applications, along with providing access to the new relativistic high energy density physics regimes. The warp device would fulfill the immediate need for an intermediate level machine for Z-pinch, beam, and pulse power flow studies, along with added benefit of recruiting the next generation of red plasma and accelerator scientists and engineers and technicians.
Red plasma.
Finally, warp would be an ideal platform for prototyping novel pulse power architectures for continuous rep rate nuclear fusion and radiographic movie operations, thereby enabling us to continue our collaborations across the DOE and DoD complexes, along with forging new private industry partners through our CRADA and strategic partnership programs.
Okay, chat. I mean, what the hell, man? They're just out here saying this stuff publicly. How do people not just look, chat? Just people out there that are researching, just look into the science. It's all right there. I get why it's hard because no one knows what they're looking for. If you don't know you're looking for some plasma orbs, none of this really makes a lot of sense. Once you know you're looking for some plasma orbs, you can't make stuff like this up. Literally just says right there on your screen, everything we see in the MH370 videos and nothing else. It's not like they're saying, oh, it can produce X-rays. It can also make unicorns. No, it just says it right there. It says we're using this for energy production, advanced propulsion, and also if we want to make X-rays, we can do that too. Okay, so all the things that are happening in the orbs in the MH370 videos are explained right here in this conclusion, which, by the way, let's read off the contributors down here at the bottom. Let me just read them off. These are the contributors. The Department of Energy and Department of Defense, High Energy Density Science, DARPA, ONR, NASA, Lawrence Livermore, all the big plasma laboratories. And then over here, strategic partnerships with private companies, such as Limitless Space Institute. Wait, Limitless Space Institute, isn't that Sonny White? Chat, yep. Limitless Space Institute. That's Sonny White. That's Sonny White on the right. Limitless Space Institute. That's Sonny White. What, chat? If you're listening in audio, I'm sitting up here with my hands up wondering, what else do I got to do? What else do I got to do, chat, for people to realize? That's Sonny White. Then you have SpaceX. SpaceX is listed over here. Elon Musk. And then you have Lockheed Martin. Lockheed Martin listed as number 3. I'm honestly just surprised I don't see Unlab listed on here as well. Chat. Will Sonny White talk to me maybe? So, what have we learned here today, chat? And this is like, I don't even know how many devices like this we reviewed that are like free energy devices that are also fusion based, that are also propulsion. But Kepler Space also had a device just like this that produced thrust. I think it's Giovanni Modenese, right? Is that who it was? Or Fontana? I can't remember which one it was, but one of them also had a device with Potklanov, had a device that is producing thrust. All of these concepts of anti-gravity are thrust, energy generation. They all seem to include plasmas, and they all link back to fusion. They all lead back to nukes. Okay. So I hope you learned a little bit of something today about fusion, plasma, warp drives. So next time somebody asks you, says, hey, are warp drives real? You say, yeah, they're real. And they use plasma. They found out smart ways to use plasma. You want to sound really smart, you say they use smart use of Lorentz forces. That's what you say if you really want to sound smart. They'll look at you like, what does that mean? It's just like a smart way to say electromagnetism. Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Yearthrall. Appreciate you. The civilian military contractor Mike, who met with Tulsi Gabbard and Representative Burleson last Sunday, is the owner of the technology that abducted MH370. He describes it on a podcast. I doubt that. I doubt it. I doubt it, but thank you very much. I appreciate it. I may check that out. Thank you for that donation. I have a feeling that the people that made the orbs are not somebody off the street. It's probably either the Air Force or the defense contractors. And lastly, Woke and Walked gifted the cookie says, hidden in plain sight. They're telling us who they are and what they're doing, and they're just better that we don't notice. Disclosure simply needs to be a marketing campaign of simply enough obvious truth to overcome the cognitive dissonance. Exactly. You nailed it. Thank you, guys. MH370X. Thank you in the Pilled. Thank you in the Rumble chat. We'll be back on Friday, guys. And I think on Friday we will probably try to do the we're gonna do the tier list of the goats. I think we're gonna have a little fun on Friday. Probably try to do something a little different. It's been pretty deep and pretty hardcore recently. So hope you guys have enjoyed the thermonuclear discussion, warp drives, quantum mechanics, etc. Have a great night, everybody. Later.
Infrared eyes, scanning the black, tracking the heat, never turning back. Control 22, a covert gaze. Control 33, in the cosmic maze. Controls in the mix, secrets untold. Silent watchers, brave and bold. In the shadows, they silently glide, protecting our interest, far and wide. As Spears, sentinel of the night, watching over with infrared sight, alerting us to threats afar, guiding our defenses like a guiding star. In the silence of space, they keep their post, shields unseen yet feared the most. With precision and speed, they warn of danger, keeping us safe from the missile's anger. As Beers, sentinel of the night, watching over with infrared sight, alerting us to threats afar, guiding our defenses like a guiding star. Controls in the mix, secrets untold, silent watchers, brave and bold. In the shadows, they silently glide, protecting our interest, far and wide. As Beers, sentinel of the night, watching over with infrared sight, alerting us to threats afar, guiding our defenses like a guiding star. As Beers, sentinel of the night, watching over with infrared sight, alerting us to threats afar, guiding our defenses like